All right. I never know what to do first. Take off the logo or the music. I always think I do it wrong, too. Whatever way I choose, I think I do it wrong. This is the Dr. Sem Yankee Show. It is Saturday, July the 11th, 2026. And we're not going to do a lot of Yankee bashing today. We're not going to talk about how they've had a miserable month. We're not going to talk about players who aren't performing. Instead, today, we are going to talk about the great Mickey Mantle and a wonderful book that was just written this year about Mickey Mantle. We have not one, but two special guests. But before we begin, let's make today a great day. And how do you make your day great? It's simple. You look around and you notice the good, because there is good everywhere, always. Even in the worst times, there is good. You notice the good and you bring that and cherish that in your heart. And when you do that, you'll say to yourself, even in the worst times, there's something that I can be appreciative of, or something that I can be happy for. And then we take that goodness, and instead of holding it in our own self, we share it with others. But I know some of you might say, Dr. Sem, there is no good. I can't find any good anywhere in this entire world. And if that's the case, then create good on your own. Do something nice for somebody else. And then you've got good. And then you can cherish that good in your heart. And then you can spread that good to others. Remember, when we give love, it comes back to us in greater amounts than we ever gave. Also, a reminder that this show is brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. Artemisia is a traditional publisher in the good old United States of America, and they've published lots of great books about the Yankees written by me. And some of those books are, the least among them, From Compton to the Bronx. I Need a New Graphic for The Greatest New York Yankees by Uniform Number. And of course, they also published the greatest novel ever written, Scattering the Ashes. If you haven't read it yet, your life is incomplete, so get yourself a copy. Go to apbooks.net. They have a gazillion books across a billion different genres. Take a look. They are great. Now, today's book does not come from Artemisia, comes from a different publisher, and it is called 7 Swings at 7, and it talks about Mickey Mantle, his legend, and the fact that he was a victim of American culture. It's by Rob Weir, and Rob is here. We're going to bring him up. Hi, Rob.
Hey, Dr. Sem, how are you?
I am doing great. It's great to have you. And we also have, from Start Spreading the News, and Central Pennsylvania, one of the greatest people in the world, Mike Whiteman. Oh, who happens to be reading my book. Thank you, Mike.
It's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Mike. Mike did a review for this wonderful book on Start Spreading the News. And you can always go to Start Spreading the News at www.startspreadingthenews.blog, the greatest Yankees site. We put up brand new content every single day with articles at 6, 10, and 2 p.m. and 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., just so you don't get confused, 2 p.m., and then a game thread for every game that is played. But we're not here to talk about the Yankees of today. We're here to talk about Mickey Mantle. So, Rob, why don't you tell us a little about the wonderful book that you wrote?
Well, it's a labor of love. I was an academic, and when I was an academic, I had to write a lot of books about things that I had to do to prove my chops, as it were. But I've had a couple things boiling in me forever. And I guess people said, when did you first start writing the book about Mickey Mantle? And I said, I think probably when I was 4. And that's what the time I became a Mickey Mantle fan. I grew up in South Central Pennsylvania. So Mike and I have talked about that before. I grew up in a place called Chambersburg. It was not in New York. In fact, nobody I knew even went to New York, but it was close to Baltimore. So I could go see Mickey Mantle play in Baltimore. And like a lot of things, my love of Mickey Mantle came from my dad. He grew up in Worcester, Mass, but he was not a Red Sox fan. He was a Joe DiMaggio fan. And so I kept hearing about Joe this, Joe that. And at 4 years old, I won my own hero, and who better than the Mick? And so I started writing about the Mick, and a lot of things are kind of interesting about the Mick. I mean, he was kind of a folkloric hero. Those massive home runs that he hit. They were not tape measure home runs, by the way, because nobody actually accurately measured them. But he just did things that it seemed like a little kid would love to do. And then as I got older, I found out there were things about the Mick that were not so nice. He was horrible with women, but he was very good on the issue of race. And so I started exploring those kinds of things. I didn't want to do a conventional biography of Mickey because, Jane Levy did a really good one, and a couple other people have done a really good one. So I wanted to look at Mickey from some other things that kind of, if you will, I was a historian. So I wanted to marry my love of baseball and of the Yankees and of Mickey with being a historian and talk about those things that, how Mantle fit into American culture and he didn't fit in, and reminding people that, Yankee fans talk about this ad infinitum, about how the Yankee teams of today are different than the Yankee teams of the 1950s and 60s and so forth. And that's true. I mean, that's what American culture does, is it changes. But I wanted to kind of think about that because when you deal with young people, there's a lot of this idea that they want to everything to be roses, and if somebody did anything bad in their life, that's it. We don't deal with them again. But Mantle did a lot of bad things, but he didn't necessarily do things that weren't expected of men in the 1950s. So I wanted to talk about that. And I also wanted to talk about another thing that he did that was not expected of white men in the 1950s, which was that he was pretty doggone good on the issue of race. A friendship with Willie Mays and with the few Yankee players that were black when Mickey played, and he was always supportive of him. I think Arlene Howard would have married Mickey. She had married Elston. But, so there was a lot of rich stuff there that people don't remember or don't give the same value to. And, it's still kind of hard to get past the fact that Mickey Mantle is a great American hero. And, why do we do that? Sports fans do a lot of silly things like worship people that maybe shouldn't be worshiped. They just happen to do one thing a whole lot better than you or I could ever do them, right? And that was Mickey. I was just thinking I've got to give a talk at my local library at some point. And I was thinking about maybe using that line that that Brooks Robinson once used in 1963 after Mantle went on the disabled list, as it was called then, the injured list now. And then he came back, and he didn't even know that he had been activated again when he slammed a home run. And I happened to be in Baltimore at Memorial Stadium when he hit it. And that was the greatest day of my life. It was just spectacular. But, as he was going around the bases, he looked over at Boog Powell and he said, "That's why he's Mickey Mantle." Mm. And, those were the kind of stories that I was interested in.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah. I still can see that ball going over the fence.
I can imagine.
I couldn't believe
a great moment for a kid.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Everybody has reported it wrong. They said he hit it to left field. He didn't. He hit it to right center. I was there. I saw where the ball was. And they said he hit it on the first pitch. He didn't. He took 2 strikes before he hit it. So
that's great. Mike, when you read the book, what was the big takeaway you had?
Yeah, I had, and I came to Mickey Mantle fandom, much like Rob, from my dad. And so Mickey Mantle was my dad's favorite player. The Yankees were my dad's favorite team. Yep. And so again, like Rob, I grew up in central Pennsylvania. All my buddies were Phillies, Orioles, and Pirates fan. And, me, I'm a Yankee fan. And so, well, Why are you a Yankee fan? Why don't you like Mike Schmidt? Why don't you like Willie Stargell? Why don't you like Dave Parker? I'm like, I'm a Yankee fan. And it came from my dad.
I liked the Pirate. I liked every Pirate except Bill Mazeroski.
Yeah, I hear his name, and even I wasn't even around when that happened, but it was so I was raised that Mickey Mantle was the best player ever, and was my dad's hero. And of course, as I grew up and as I learned more and more about Mantle, again, like Rob said, we started learning about some of the warts of Mantle, and I've seen recollections of Mantle that ignore all of that and basically say that he walks on water. Mm-hmm. I've seen the other part where it's just like Mickey Mantle was just a bad guy. It was just a bad guy. And the thing that I really liked about Rob's book is that it was as balanced of a story, account of Mantle as I think that I've ever seen. And you know what? It is okay to say that Mickey Mantle was a baseball hero, and it's okay to say at the same time he was not a perfect person.
No, he was not.
And I think his instincts were good. I think he wanted to do good. And, like I said, and, when you talked about how he treated Elston Howard, I think about the end of his life when he said, when he said, I'm not a hero. Yes. And, that to me was as courageous as anything I've seen in sports, to just basically say those things about himself. And then, it was just a really good balanced account. And so that's what really struck me, Rob, when I started reading.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was one of the things I wanted to do, but we forget that sports heroes are people, don't we? They take on this other aura, as it were, and they are subject to the same temptations, the same expectations, and the expectations of white men towards women in the 1950s was not particularly PC. Let's say. They were expected to be aggressive and to not necessarily engage in affairs like Mickey did, but on the other hand, that could get you cred with other men if you did.
Sure.
And
You went well in the locker room.
as well as in the locker room. I remember the other thing I remember this so vividly from when I was in elementary school. I read, I had to give my first book report, and I of course gave it on Mickey Mantle. What else would I do it on? And there was a story about Mantle in Detroit and how he and Billy Martin played follow the leader around the 8th floor of a hotel. And that's not what they were doing at all. They were peeping into windows to see if they could catch their teammates with some woman other than their wife. But that was not the way it was reported in the book that I read. And when I read it later on, I said, well, it kind of dawned on me, well, of course they weren't playing follow the leader because Mickey was afraid of heights. But that was the kind of bad boy behavior that was just, American culture was fraught with it. And Mickey engaged in it. He over engaged in it. I think if the real tragedy of Mickey Mantle was that he didn't catch on that act had been shop worn for a good decade by the time that he took up with, the woman who was not his wife. But, he just didn't learn from that. But he did learn a lot of lessons along the way. He learned that his drinking was a bad thing, and that it probably ruined his health, which was fragile to begin with. I think he's makes number 1 on the list of most injured athletes of all time, professional athletes of all time, and that couldn't have helped him any. And some of his reported injuries, pulled muscles, and so forth, were really that Mickey got drunk. That's what happened, and but on the other hand, you do have these stories of him coming out later in life and saying, "Hey kids, I'm not a role model. I'm what you should not do." That is incredibly courageous, and the things that he did with commercials he did with Willie. You remember that the story of how Larry Bird and Magic Johnson became friends over commercials. Same thing with Mickey and Willie. The only difference is it was cool to do it when Larry and Magic did it, and it was not cool at all to do it when Mickey did it.
Sure.
But but he would go in and Willie was very shy. People don't know that about Willie Mays. He was a pretty shy guy. I got to shake his hand once, me and about 1,000 other people in Atlantic City. But he didn't put himself out there the way Mickey did. He didn't have Mickey's charisma, but they were making a commercial together, and they were supposed to cry, because their product was not available to them and so forth. And Willie said, just put his foot down and said, "Willie, don't cry." And Mickey went up to him and said, "Let me talk to him." And he came out, boom, nailed it. And they said, "What did you say to Willie?" And he said, "Oh, man, I just told Willie I loved him. And, he knew that I wouldn't do anything to hurt him." And, that's an extraordinary relationship for that period of time between a white baseball player and an African-American baseball player. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one
and then you talk about the injuries. Of course, you devote a whole chapter in the book about the injuries. About the injuries. And again, you can't really talk about Mantle's playing career without talking about those injuries.
Yeah, name it, he had it.
I think the title of the chapter was "If Mantle Had Two Good Legs."
Oh yeah, that was my father's mantra.
And he played pretty darn good on 1 or 1.5. So
yeah, Casey Stengel once said that Mantle was the greatest one-legged player he had ever seen, and and he said, in fact, he might be the greatest player I've ever seen, 1 or 2 legs. But it caught up to him. I mean, those injuries and osteomyelitis caught up to him. That's not something you you get rid of. That's something, once you got it, you've got it for the rest of your life. Now we can control that now, but Mickey couldn't have gone in the military if he wanted to. And I think he probably did, because he got booed because he didn't go to the Korean War. And people didn't understand that he couldn't get in. I mean, he was tested 3 times, and each time he was rejected, 4F. But that was the least of his worries. See, I think the 51 World Series, first when he was this kid, right? 19 years old in New York, and he's playing there beside DiMaggio, and he rips up his leg. Well, the chances are very good that Mickey Mantle played his entire career with a torn ACL. Okay, now we can fix those now too. But remember, it used to be if you tore an ACL, your career was done. Well, okay, so Mantle plays a total 18 seasons with a torn ACL. I mean, that's crazy. And Mantle would always, he wouldn't complain about those things. And, he's a guy when his side is torn open and you can see inside his body. He's hiding it from Casey Stengel because he knows Casey will take him out of the game. And then, and finally, I think it was Clete Boyer, maybe, who was one of Mickey's best friends, that said, the Mick is bleeding, and may have that wrong, who it was, but and Mickey just says, "Oh, it's nothing, Case." It's nothing. I can see inside your body. I can see your muscles twitching. It's nothing. I mean, that's several people have said that Mickey was a greater hero to his teammates than he was to any baseball fan, because they knew what he went through every day. And yeah.
Let me ask you a controversial question here, Rob. Your dad was a big Joe DiMaggio fan.
Yes.
You're a big Mickey Mantle fan.
Yep.
Mike can then jump in on this too. When I was growing up, oh, by the way, Mike, very nice new office. It looks great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hoping to get a little more light here. So
yeah, it's good. It's good. When I was growing up, the general consensus was Joe DiMaggio was the better player.
Yeah.
Then with the advent of news statistics, people now tend to rate Mickey Mantle as the better of the two. Rob,
yes.
Who's the better of the two, Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio?
Lou Gehrig.
Good answer.
If you look at, nice, very nice, Rob. Very nice.
If you look at Lou's numbers, he played alongside Ruth, so obviously he doesn't get the line. Never got the limelight, as it were, and he was a pretty shy guy himself. But if you look at his numbers, they're phenomenal. Although I know that in some of those latest polls where Yankee fans got to vote on who was the greatest, it's always Babe Ruth, of course, but Mickey came out second. Mantle came out second in those, and I think Mickey was a better player he was a more dangerous player than Joe DiMaggio. And by the way, Joe was no peach as a human being either. If you read some of the biographies of him, but Mantle could do. I mean, he could just hit the ball so far. It could make you think, surely there's a God in heaven. And my dad used to joke that when Mantle really got a hold of one, that or maybe I told a joke. I don't remember. We come from we're Scottish heritage, so we tell jokes all the time. But we did when he was alive. But that you could, when Mantle really got a hold of one, you could go out and get a hot dog in the foyer and come back and sit down, put your Coke in the drink container and see where it came down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was that. There were home runs that he hit. I didn't get to see the home run he hit in Detroit. And by the way, think about this, by the way, when Mantle got hurt in 1963, okay, he had already hit the longest home run that had ever been hit at Briggs Stadium. And that was the year he almost hit the ball out of Yankee Stadium. that it hit the top light on the roof. So what a year that might have been. But just think about being able to do. I mean, you guys, I'm sure, went to the old Yankee Stadium and looked up there and said, "How can a human being hit a ball that far?" And I did the same thing.
It was rising when it hit, right?
Yeah. Some physicist made some kind of calculation about it but you can't really go by that because it did hit something. So you don't know how far it would have gone. But man, when I stood outside of Briggs Stadium after it was by then Tiger Stadium, it was on its way out. I used to go to a conference every fall in Detroit, and so I would go do other things in Detroit when I was there and so forth. And I stood out there where Mantle's ball came over the roof, and I just look there, and you have to be in awe of that. I mean, that's Paul Bunyan crap right there, and the home runs I saw him hit. I mean, I used to go down to Washington, D.C. to see the Mick too. We didn't go to New York because my dad was a working class guy. We didn't have a car that would be good enough to drive to New York. So that's how that worked. But we knew those towns, and we knew how to get around them and so forth. And we knew where to go if something went wrong with the car, which was a good thing. But after the Senators left Griffith Stadium and they moved into what was called DC Stadium, and then it was called RFK Stadium, they had those red seats up in the top deck in center field where Frank Howard hit them. And I saw Mantle hit one that was like maybe 2 rows over, but as far as Howard hit it. And Mickey always was a great Frank Howard fan. He said Frank was the strongest player I ever saw. Well, if Frank Howard was stronger than that, I never saw him hit one that far, but I saw Mickey hit one that far. And, it just seemed like the ball was never going to come down. And that gives a guy a kind of folkloric aura, as it were. Now, again, I want to emphasize that these guys, really, that's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. I feel the same way when I see Aaron Judge really hit one. It's a thing of beauty. Although Judge's balls go out faster than Mickey's balls. Mickey's balls were parabolas. Just rise, and they don't come down until they are, until gravity pulls them down. That was kind of the way it was, except for his 500th. That was a cheap home run, but and I was a great Hank Aaron fan too. And Hank Aaron, he hit line drives. And so as a lot of people didn't give Hank Aaron the credit he deserved because his home runs went gone. Oh, I blinked, I missed it. But Mantle's, you didn't miss them. And that was just something for a kid to see. And then, as I said, I later on, I put my historian's skills to trying to do a balanced view of Mantle, and and found out that he fell short of being a hero, but they were never heroes to begin with. I mean, they might be legends, but they weren't heroes. A hero is a guy who pulls a kid out of a fire, right? Or takes his buddy back to get medical attention in the line of fire. But but a legend is a guy who he transpires time, and that's the reason we still talk about him. There are certain players we still talk about. We still talk about Babe Ruth. You guys never saw Babe Ruth, right?
Mike did. Mike grew up with Babe Ruth. I think I'm older than Mike, so
I've aged well. Yes, I've aged well.
But we never saw those guys. But by the way, my dad was from Worcester, Mass. His brother was a Red Sox fan, and my dad was a Yankees fan. But the reason was, though we were Scottish, my dad grew up in an Italian neighborhood. And I didn't know my paternal relatives all that well until later on. My father always said that in Worcester, you go into a home and there's a picture of the Pope, there's a picture of Jesus, a picture of Franklin Roosevelt, and a picture of Joe DiMaggio. And the first time I went to see my grandfather and his friends, that was true of every home I went into. So my dad grew up a Yankee fan because, who were the Red Sox? They had Dom DiMaggio, but that's not the same thing, right?
No, it's not. It's a very worse Yeah, I can't think of the word. It's a poor replica for the real thing. Dominic DiMaggio. He was a great player, but he wasn't Joe. Obviously.
He was great. He was a graceful outfielder, very graceful outfielder. My dad used to say that when Dom DiMaggio was with the Red Sox, he played center and right because Ted Williams was lazy. And I thought, no, I don't think so, Dad. I think Ted Williams might be the greatest pure hitter that I know of. And
that's my dad's favorite player of all time, Teddy Ballgame. Yeah. My dad's a Red Sox fan.
Yeah, well, yeah, that must be fun at holidays. But I didn't grow up hating the Red Sox, though. That was an interesting thing because when I was a kid, who cared about the Red Sox? I mean, they were terrible. They were better than the Senators, and they were better than the Athletics. But that was about all you could say for them. So they were not a very good team. But so when I moved to Massachusetts, I've always been a baseball fan. So I looked at guys like Dustin Pedroia, and I said, "Now there's a baseball player." I love Dustin Pedroia, and so forth. But that's you can get to hate Red Sox fans living in Massachusetts, just as in New York you can come to hate Yankee fans.
We try to be a little different than that, Mike. I think we're more reasonable as Yankee fans. Yes.
Yeah, I think we try. Yes, I think we do. I think we have good perspective in it, Paul.
Sports. I've heard some sports radio up your way, down your way, I should say, and or down your way, Dr. Sam. But sometimes they're just crazy. They're a little bit too rabid. You admire their passion, but you say, could we be a little bit objective about it? That might be a good thing.
Yeah, I try not to listen to too much sports radio any longer. It's just. And actually, when you're writing a Yankee site, I try to keep my perspectives and my opinions my own. And if you listen too much to everybody else, then their ideas sometimes filter into the way your own thinking. So
I think you're right.
And I find a lot of it to be obnoxious, to be honest. So a lot of the discussion has less to do with sports often, and they're just talking about nonsense, and that just drives me up the wall. Let me turn it over to Mike again. Mike, we're past the 30-minute mark, so we're going to start winding down. Do you have any other questions for Rob about Mantle, about the book, about any part of the whole topic?
I would say, Rob, and maybe you answered it, but I had said one of my favorite parts of the book were the 7 home runs.
Yeah.
And what really struck me was, again, these all weren't famous ones, like the 1951 spring training against USC.
Yes.
That to me was a great story.
Yeah.
And I think might have been one of the things that pushed a guy who was in Class C the year before past about 8 different, BB, A, AA.
Yes.
Up into the majors. So I don't know, do you have, and so you've seen obviously Mantle homers in person. I have not. If you had to narrow down to one, which one would it be? Would it be that one you saw in Washington, or
no? September 3rd, 1963 in Baltimore, the one that came off the IL and hit. That was it, because I was still a relatively young kid then. I think I was 11 at that time, and I was just a huge Mantle fan. And I thought, when you were playing with other kids, you just say Mantle's the greatest, and oh no, he's not. Clemente's the greatest, or whatever. That was the thing that you did. But when I saw that home run, I just thought, I'll never see anything like this again, probably. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, it is a thrill of mine. And again, like I said, he was my dad's favorite player. It is just a thrill of mine to sit and talking to someone who's seen Mantle and who's seen some of those home runs. And so yeah, this has been tremendous. It was tremendous fun for me to read your book, Rob, and this has been a real treat for me to listen to you reminisce about it.
Yeah, and it can be purchased. I guess it's on Amazon too. I'm probably at number 11,350,000 or something like that on Amazon. But
I'm right there with you.
But yeah, you can get that, and it's Summer Game Books is a publisher, and I'm told that it's available in the New York metro area in bookstores. I haven't been to New York for a couple months, so and Walt was the publisher was just getting around to getting a distribution of it in New York. But I'm told that they're in the bookstores, good bookstores near you. So
awesome, Rob. I want to thank you so much. The book is called 7 Swings at 7. The story of Mickey Mantle, told not as a hero, not as a bad guy, but a balanced look at one of the greatest baseball players of all time. 7 Swings at 7 by Summer Game Books. Take a look. Go find it at Summer Game Books or on Amazon. Rob, thank you for joining us. Mike, thank you for joining us. Everybody, thank you for watching. This has been the Dr. Sim Yankees Show. Let's go, Yankees. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Remember, when we give love, it comes back to us in greater amounts than we ever gave. Have a great day.